Hi, and welcome to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. This is a podcast where I get to interview really cool people about their spiritual awakening or their turning point in their life that led them to be so much more than they thought they were. Just like you probably had an experience or an awakening moment, or many actually in your life, that led you to realize that maybe you're in the wrong job, you're in the wrong relationship, or even in the wrong country. Who knows? But you might have a story within you that you didn't even know you had. If you want to hear my story, go over to episode 1 after this one, where you can hear all about my awakening moment and my turning point in my life. So I'm really excited today to welcome my next guest, Moncef Afkir. Let me get it right. Actually, I know Moncef, okay. I've been on his shows and I'm really excited to have him on my show. It's kind of like this really cool relationship that we have. And I'm so excited that he's here actually so you can hear all about him, because we never really hear all about him. He tells us all about his guests, including me, but we don't hear about him. So I'm excited to listen and hear about his story. He has 2 shows. He has Your Divine Uniqueness, which I've been on a few times, and that is one of his shows. And he's got a new show, and his show is called The Mother's Voice. I've also been on that one. And today, we're recording this on the 25th of June, 2020. Actually, our episode of Mother's Voice goes out today. So how about that for divinely ordered timing? So welcome, Moncef, to my podcast, The Spiritual Awakener.
Thank you so much, Susan. Very happy to be with you here and with your audience.
Oh, great. Thank you. So tell us a bit about, I'm sure you've had many spiritual awakening or turning points, but tell us how you got from being who you were all those years ago, which you're going to tell us about, to having these shows.
So yeah, I have before working on spiritual field, I have an engineering background. So I worked as an engineer for more than 5 years, and during that time, I was trying to know who I am and what I am here to do. And also I was feeling that there's something I want to share with the world, something unique. And it was more about a discovery that led me to spirituality, self-discovery that led me to spirituality and self-development. And
How did you know that though, Moncef? How did you know that you wanted to share something with the world? Do you think as a child you kind of always knew that there was more to you than you thought?
It's so I don't remember the beginning, but I remember I was listening to some speakers. They just came on TV or something, and what they said, it was something like I felt there's something happening within me, and it was like remembering or something, and it stayed within me. Yeah, wake up call, and it stayed within me until
and
I
that's what's
decided to
happening now
shift.
in the world, isn't it? If we look at what's happening in the world, we're interviewing this in June 2020, and people going through a massive awakening, a real wake-up call about who they are. So carry on.
Yeah, and so how I shifted from an engineering career to working on spiritual field, it was like the decision to leave my job. It took me maybe about 2 years or something like that. I was trying sometimes to leave my job because I was maybe angry at my boss or didn't like the work I was doing at the time. But each time, either a friend or family member or myself, I remind myself that if I left because I don't like it or I'm running away, I will do the same with my business. So I was waiting until the right timing.
It's good advice.
And yeah, exactly. And also what happened, maybe just a month or something, or a couple of months before I left my job, my grandfather passed away, and I was very close to him. And after that, I was just sitting on my own, reflecting on what I want to do in my life. And if I am in the path that I want really to live.
Yeah.
And yeah, after that, like something in the job, it happened that I had the choice to either give 100% of my energy to the job,
Yeah.
or I need to leave. And the
Wow.
decision was very organic, very natural. I
Mm.
really didn't think about it, and it felt right at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
and
you jumped ship.
yeah, yes,
And
let's
that's
say
a
that.
brave, trusting, divine, unique journey, right? So
Right.
you jumped ship and so what did you do? Jump into what? What did you jump into? You were an engineer, so
Before,
you had all that background, which was really handy.
yeah, it was very helpful to manage the technical part. And like in the beginning, I had just an idea because like for me, I didn't really know where I am heading, but
Yeah.
just I need to come up with something. Also because my friends, my family were asking me every time, and I didn't know. So I had a plan, and the day after, maybe the week after I left my job, I traveled to, I just stayed in nature, in the mountains,
Oh,
and
amazing.
then I changed everything, all the plans.
And was
And
this in Morocco? Because that's where you're from.
in Morocco, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And so you
yeah,
were there and you went up
yeah,
the mountains. It's somewhere I actually
and
haven't experienced, but it sounds amazing.
yeah,
And I can see clairvoyantly like the experience you had as you're talking about it. So I'm sure
hmm
the listeners will as well. Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I felt guided to host a podcast. I did it for 1 year, and
Mm.
for me that was really an experience because I was really afraid like to be the image of my business, to show up. I
Mm.
want to just manage it and be in the background. But
Mhm.
I tried to find someone else with a host, but it just didn't work out. And yeah, I didn't have a choice.
It
So
had to be your energy, right? Mm.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I hosted it. I did interviews. It was pre-recorded, and yeah, it was more about building my confidence and also learning like about um, the internet business, how to manage it and how to
Yeah.
run that. And yeah,
What type
after
of
that,
people did you interview? What type of people?
it was mainly self-development, spirituality, just a little bit, not
Mm.
much.
Mm.
Yeah,
Self-development. Hmm.
yeah, because also at that time I wasn't like really, how to say, maybe confident to talk freely about spirituality
Yeah.
in public.
Yeah.
So I needed some time to have this confidence. Yeah,
But that's
and
about owning it, isn't it? It's about
right.
owning, I came out of the closet in the sense of spiritual 12 years ago. And it was that sense of actually, once you own it and once you say, yes, in my
Mm-hmm.
case, spiritual scientist, once you do that, then the universe lines up. And this is what I help people to understand when I teach them, because you have to own it. So that's what you were doing. You were
Right,
on your journey of owning it, weren't you? Mm.
right, right. And yeah, after that, like my friend, she's also Moroccan, but she was living abroad. She was always sending me other shows, and she was
Mm.
telling me this is a great show and this is great speakers. You can learn from this teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then I found other shows that were I'm the like it's the same. How to say? It's the same as Your Divine Uniqueness, the same model.
Yeah.
And
Same
I
genre.
was listening. Yeah, I was
Mm.
listening to them, and like one night, I really felt really excited about doing the same. I really wanted to do that live, to have the
Mhm.
live experience,
Yeah.
and how to say, like connect with the audience live.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I felt like really excited at that night. I couldn't sleep from the excitement, I remember.
So then don't you? Like, when you
Yeah,
get that feeling, I call
yeah,
it like the light goes on and you feel this excitement
right.
and you get up every day and you're like, actually, this isn't work.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's when you know, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah,
And when you can't
and
sleep.
yeah, absolutely. And it happened like that's like the shift from the podcast to the
Mm.
Your Divine Uniqueness. It happened because I left my job at that time. I spent all my savings on the business and my
Yeah.
personal
Mm.
uh, personal like fees or something. I don't remember the word in English, but
Before?
uh,
Second?
like I was spending all my personal life, something like that, and
Yeah.
my business, so all my savings, and I needed to. I borrowed money to just find what I will be doing next,
Yeah.
and then when I first got to do Your Divine Uniqueness, I asked my sister if she want to invest in that. I didn't want to borrow. I just told her
Yeah.
I will be doing this. I wanted to give her like the details. She told me it's okay. I'm in. You don't need to tell me all the details and
Amazing.
just
Yeah.
start.
So she
And
trusted. Yeah. She
yeah,
trusted you.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is how it started. And in the beginning, it was how to say, because at that time, uh, maybe in general, my family and friends, they were not how to say, maybe a little sometimes resisting my decision because nothing
It wasn't a
it
proper
was
job,
working.
Moncef, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't a
right.
proper job. And this is what I was told, like all of my time that I was launching out. I was like,
Yeah,
well, you might need to get a proper job, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's the whole perhaps the old way of thinking is that you
Hmm.
have to have a job to be secure,
Right,
right? But
right.
I knew, as you knew, that it was the absolute right thing to do. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
And yeah, but also like in addition to that, like also I had my own fears because maybe in the past, like many years ago, I was like very religious at that time.
Ah,
And
mm,
for me, like I was changing like a lot, like
mm,
becoming
yeah.
totally different person in just few years. And at
So
that time, because
did the family then, did they find that because you were stepping out, and this happens a lot, doesn't it, with people that you might be brought up in a religious way. I was brought up the same way as a Christian, confirmed into the church. Well, it never felt right to me. It always didn't feel right, but I still did it because that was what we did in our family.
Mhm,
But then as you go on, you realize that there isn't really religion, is there? It's just all one. And so perhaps they were scared for you, and if you're listening to this and you might have been brought up religiously and you're really stepping into your power as a spiritual being, really think about, you probably already knew that. It's just that
mhm,
some people's journey needs to be a religion and some people's journey needs to be really standing in your power as a being of light,
right,
right? Having a human
right.
experience. And that's
Yeah.
okay, isn't it? It's all right that they might not have followed you on that journey, but it can be hard. I think it can be hard if somebody doesn't believe in what you're doing, but you
Hmm.
still did it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe for them, like there was this aspects, but for me, maybe I had more fear than them because like in the past, I was like much more religious than them. And
Wow, what was your fear? What was your fear? I'm excited to hear this.
because at that time, because like what I was doing, it was not supported.
Mm,
And I was sometimes like feeling alone, like if am I doing, am I like walking the right path or not?
mm,
Um,
mm.
because like what I discovered, like for us as humans, like when we walk a path where others around us are not maybe supporting or they don't understand, we
Yeah,
feel that maybe there is something wrong with us.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
maybe also this is why when we want to buy something, we want to buy the best sellers because we trust that everyone bought it, so this is the right one
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get.
yeah.
We
True.
are afraid, yeah, to
And to go and
and
be really choosy about the podcasts you go on
right,
and the shows you go on, like be
yeah,
really choosy about it because a
yeah,
vibrational match needs to happen, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I at that time in the beginning it was more about trusting my path,
Mm,
and I don't need like confirmation from others
yeah.
to walk that path. It was more about trusting myself. And also like something that I really liked in the beginning, it was because the kind of show I'm doing, Your Divine Uniqueness, it was new to me. I was trying to
Mm,
see how others were doing it, but
yeah.
still I didn't understand the details. And
Yeah.
like whenever, sometimes I invited a speaker and then we contact to talk a little bit before we have the show.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then just through the discussion, all the details I needed were coming through the speakers.
Okay,
So
brilliant.
it
Yeah.
was all
Mhm.
like supporting that path.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I walked that path, and it's still really, how
Still
should I say,
is,
really
right?
profound journey, really big transformation for me. And like, it really helped me to really trust this inner guidance.
Yeah.
And like, I don't need any more, maybe sometimes still, but in general, I don't need others to maybe confirm my path. And this is where I really shifted from maybe I started to take decisions from the heart, and then the left brain or the mind came after that in the
Yeah.
implementation of that.
Just the details of it. The left brain
Yeah.
popped in and just did all the details, you know, of what you
Yes.
needed.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
really listening to that. And what I'm seeing as you're talking is, and perhaps this will be helpful for people listening, is when you really are following your heart, you're dropping down, aren't you, into that part of you that has all the answers. And sometimes when we're living in, I suppose I call it the 3D reality, 3D reality of what this outside world is and what our world is, then we're more in our head, in our left brain perhaps, than we are in our heart. So it's coming into that heart space, isn't it, to make your choices. And it sounds like that is exactly what happened to you. You know, you came into that heart space. And I know, you know, your energy is such a beautiful, soft, loving, caring energy. And so that's why you have people attracted to come on, you know, your shows, because they feel that energy and they almost feel like nurtured by your conversation. And that's what I hope mine is as well. I hope people feel nurtured and that they can hear the vibration of love coming from this show, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? You know, that
Yeah, absolutely.
seamless experience. Yeah.
And,
So your mother's voice is quite interesting, because you're not a mother. Well, you probably were in many times before.
and I'm not a
But
parent.
what, sorry?
And I'm not a parent also.
And he's not a parent, and Moncef's not a parent. And so when I spoke to him about going on the Mother's Voice, I did say to him, what drew you? But can you share with everybody what drew you to a podcast called The Mother's Voice? I'm a mother, by the way, if you haven't heard me speaking. So I have 2 children. Yeah.
So maybe I think it was a couple years ago. I wanted to create like another project in parallel with Your Divine Uniqueness, and each time like serving mothers came through, it was like really strong. And so this is what's made me choose to serve mothers in the beginning, also because I had lots of doubts because I'm not a mother and I'm not a parent. So in the beginning, I tried to do some interviews. It was in like blog formats written. So I was still hiding, and it's, how to say, like, I was trying like a few things, but it really didn't work until like recently in the beginning of this year, where I felt like I really need to step into it fully and like be the host and start start a show. I did. It's not a regular show. It's Awakening the Divine Feminine. This is what I started with. It was a video show, and after that, a couple of months ago, I started Mother's Voice podcast. So yeah, this is what led me to create that. And also in the beginning, I talked to my mother. I asked her about her experience raising me and my 2 sisters as a single mom, and yeah, really how to say, her experiences, because I didn't know about that, like the details before. And I really felt after that creating this is really a big responsibility. It's really needs to be really authentic. And so yeah, so I decided that the speakers and people I invite will be mothers, so the messages will be coming from mothers. And also, yeah, I'm the host, but I'm trying to, how to say, to channel mothers' energies and share it with the audience.
And it is divine feminine, isn't it? You know, and when I'm thinking about it, what you're talking about here is that, you know, my children were 11 months old and 2.5 when, and they're now 12 and 11. So, you know, I've been a single parent bringing those up all that time, and also living my mission. So it's quite interesting how, you know, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And your mum will probably say the same. Like, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And look what she's produced, right? So, and I think that about my children, you know, I'm like, wow, I've got these incredible children that are conscious, that are mindful, that understand about caring about animals and people. And they're not afraid to say how they feel or what they want or manifest or create. So I'm like, wow, you know, if these children can be brought up with this experience, there are many mothers who might be listening to this that say, oh my goodness, but I couldn't possibly live my mission as well as be a mother. Well, I tell you, you absolutely can. Yeah. So yeah, definitely listen to the mother's voice. And so they can find that. How can they find that? Apple?
Or just on weriseinlove.com.
Yeah, weriseinlove.com. And what about your other show? How can they find that?
It's on yourdivineuniqueness.com.
Yeah, brilliant. You can hear me on that a few times. Hope you fancy that. So Moncef, what would you say to people that were in a job, this is what's coming to me, in a job that they feel is not really feeding their soul, not lighting them up at this time of this great awakening? What could you say to them? Not quit your job, not quit your job. We don't do that. But what would you say to them?
I will not say that, because that's a personal decision, and I don't believe that anyone can tell us if we need to leave a job or not, because it's our own experience. And also each person has their own different path, and you know, it depends on the person. But what I would say, we need to take in the beginning maybe some kinds of risks, and we can like go maybe step by step, taking small risks, because this is what how to say, help us to trust our intuition. Because when we act upon something that we feel it may serve us, it's how to say, like for me, the more I acted upon what I thought it was intuition, with time, I'm starting to know the difference between what is coming from fear or just a reaction, and what is a guidance. So I'm still learning, but I'm starting to make a difference. So
we're all learning. We're constantly learning. And, we don't stop, do we?
And we don't need to know the whole picture in the beginning, and I don't think we will know the whole picture. It's unfolding, and we get more clarity as we are walking that path. And
I think one of the things that so I'm launching the Spiritual Entrepreneur, which is for people that really want to truly own their mission, right? But what I'd say to people is that you stay in what you're doing, but you really help yourself to understand who you truly are and what really feeds your soul, what lights you up about the job you're in. So if you're in this job, what really lights you up about it? And there's always one thing, and that is service. Always. So I always hear this from people. They say, oh, what I really love is spending time with the people, or what I really love is having conversations with them, or what I really love is this feeling that I have when I have a unity. And all of those things are about service, right?
Absolutely.
It's just the physical thing that somebody might do. So it might be like they might not want to work with numbers anymore. They might not want to be an accountant. They might not want to be a car salesman, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what it is, or a cleaner or whatever. But that part of the job is where I really feel people need to go within and find, because there's always a key, I think, there, where what is it that you love? What is it when you see people supported by you, and you have that conversation with that person in your office that's feeling sad, or they've got a bad relationship or whatever. So it's always those things. And I also think that if you're listening to this and you've been thinking for a long time, I really need to do something that feeds my soul, then you're listening to this for a reason. Like, you've been guided to listen to this particular episode with Moncef, and it might be time for you to really put your hands on your heart and just really listen to what is your soul really guiding you to do. And I would say that that was the first step, you know, and not to make any quick decisions, but just to feel within what really lights you up. Would you, Moncef? Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like doing something that we love. It can really helpful. And in the beginning, when I left my job, I was like listing all my passions, and spirituality was the first one. And then this is why I chose it, because also when we do something we love, even if we have challenges on our path, it helps us to, how to say,
grow and
to have more commitment, and
yeah,
maybe to give more energy to that until we navigate those challenges, and it can be really helpful on our path.
Yeah, absolutely. And so would you say that the kind of journey that you've been on, was there anything you would have done differently, or do you feel that it was just divinely ordered?
No, I would not change anything, because if I change something, I would be a different person now. And like the transformations and the shifts, and also the life I'm having now, I really, how to say, I feel blessed to be able to create something I love, and like, and also like it's made me like feel more alive doing something I love, and be free to create what I want. This is for me what is important. It's freedom to create what I want.
Yeah, I love that. The freedom's key, isn't it? You know, the freedom to be able to show up and do what you love every day of the week, but still have a life that you can choose to socialize. Well, maybe not so much at the moment, but socialize and see people and take flights and be somewhere else. Because when I spoke to you recently, you were in a different country. Where were you when I was speaking to you?
No.
Oh,
yes,
now you're in.
I don't remember. Now I'm in Bali, in Indonesia.
Yeah, no, you were there. Yeah, you were there. Yeah, and we were doing The Mother's Voice, and I was like, oh, right. What
exactly.
time was it? Yeah. So because I'm in the UK by the sea, you know, on the south coast of the UK. And what's really great about our work is that we have that freedom to take our laptop or our phone or whatever it is with us wherever we go. And we have no restrictions apart from we need Wi-Fi, and that's it, isn't it? You know, we literally don't need anything else, and I just love that, and I'm grateful for that every single day, because it doesn't matter where I am. You know, I can jet off somewhere, hopefully soon, and take my stuff with me, my phone maybe with me, and that's all I need, which is just incredible. So if you're listening to this and you want to be like that, you know, really feel, where is it do I feel restricted in my life? Where is it that my soul is calling me to perhaps have the freedom that Moncef and I have? And where is it that maybe I can just make a tiny step towards that? You know, just a little step, because I believe that the little steps are the key to us moving forward, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, how to say, it's like give us more confidence to continue in that path.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I've loved speaking to you today, and it's been really great having you on my show rather than the other way around. And we've learned a bit more about you. So that's really lovely. So perhaps you can tell your listeners to listen to this show to find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. I will do.
Thanks, Moncef,
thank you
so much.
Thank you so much.
Here. Thanks for being on the Spiritual Awakener.
Thank you so much.
So if you've got a spiritual awakening story that you would like to share with my listeners, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me on susankennard.co.uk and across all social media platforms. And you'll be listening to this podcast either on my YouTube channel, which is Susan Kennard, across social media, or on any podcast platform. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of The Spiritual Awakener. Much love for now.